Hey guys, MEP Guy here, and in this video we're going to draw sloped piping. So the first thing I want you guys to do is I want you to download all of these fittings, and you can get them at mepguy.com. Just select the fittings, copy them to the clipboard up here, go into your project, go to Modify, Paste from Clipboard, and just simply paste these fittings into your view and delete them. Now I've already put them in, so let's just start drawing sloped pipe. Now this is my main on the street. It's a 12-inch main, so if I change the detail level to fine, you'll see that it's a giant piece of pipe. And let's just go ahead and open up the 3D view over here. Now I can check the invert of this main by clicking on the piece of pipe, and you'll see some elevation marks right here. But if I go to my properties panel, you'll see the bottom elevation is at -5. Now this is my invert, meaning this is the bottom of my pipe. So when I finish routing, I better be above that. So let's start routing our sanitary pipe. We always want to make sure that we go from the furthest fixture first. So that's this fixture right here, which is a floor drain. And I've already placed all the plumbing fixtures in this model for you guys. So I'm going to click on this floor drain, and we're just going to click on this little create pipe button. And it's always good to drop your pipe about -2 feet to start off. And for this, we're just going to draw a normal pipe. We're going to keep the slope off, and I'm just going to start drawing it in this direction. And then I'm going to make a 90-degree turn into this direction, and that's where it's going to end at the street. We're going to hit escape. Now we didn't slope the pipe, so if we click on it, there's no slope at all. So the first way to add slope is just to select all of your pieces of pipe that you want to slope, and we have to delete or deselect the plumbing fixture. So I have to deselect that drain by going to filter and deselecting plumbing fixtures. So now we only have the piping and the fittings associated with this run of pipe. So we can go up here, and you can see all these tools now show up. We can go up here to slope, and we can change the slope value to anything we want. So let's just change it to 1/8 of an inch equals 12 inches, which is our standard slope for our pieces of pipe that are 3 inch and larger. So let's click finish, and you can see Revit has drawn that piece of pipe. Now if I click on that, you'll see there is a slope marker, and it tells me the slope of my pipe. Now this slope marker shows me that this pipe is sloping from left to right, and the reason I know that is because this high portion is to my left and the low portion right here is to my right. So that's how you can tell which way your pipe is sloping. Okay, so that's the first thing you guys are going to need to know. So the next thing is if we select into our pipe again and go to filter, deselect our plumbing fixtures, let's change the slope again. So I'm going to click this slope button and watch on the 3D view. I'm going to change it to more drastic, which is 1/2 inch equals 12 inches, and we're going to hit finish. And you can see that really made my slope drastic, and you can see it even started to break some of my fittings. So when you're using this type of changing the slope, you have to be careful because the fittings will get broken sometimes. So I just wanted to point that out. So those are some ways you can change the slope even if you didn't draw the slope at first. So let's select all of our pipe, and this time we'll deselect our plumbing fixture, and I'm just going to delete this piece of pipe. Now we can also draw slope by selecting the fitting or fixture and clicking our pipe button. And before we start drawing our pipe, we can see all these tools up here for drawing pipe. Now the first thing I want to do when I'm going to draw sloped piping is I want to make sure I set my slope direction. So I'm going to slope down. Then I want to change my slope value to whatever I need. So 1/8 of an inch equals 12 inches is good. So then we just start drawing pipe, and Revit should slope our pipe down. Now we're going to have to set this middle elevation to something like -2 feet first, and then let's just, again, we'll start drawing our pipe. So I'm just going to zoom out again, and we'll start drawing it from here, and we'll go over to about right here. And let's hit escape. Now let's just select our pipe, make sure everything is correct, and you can see the same thing happened. This time this little slope marker has changed a little bit, but you can still see the high portion over here and the low portion over here. So it does just depend on how you draw the piece of pipe, how this marker is going to show up. So if we wanted to, we could go ahead and also just change the slope from right here. So if we click on that, if I just want to change the slope to something more drastic like 1/4 of an inch, I can just enter it in right here. And you can see Revit will drop that piping at a more drastic slope to whatever I set it. But this one is still going to be add 1/8 of an inch right here. Okay, so let's just undo that. Well, redo it. And this looks good. So this is the main for my building, and this is going to determine my major slope. So the first thing we would want to check as designers to make sure that we can actually make this on the street. So, you know, I can just go to my front view right here, and I just want to make sure that this pipe is above my main on the street. So that does look like it's going to work. And so I can tell everybody that we can actually build this building, and I don't have to notify the civil engineer. Okay, so let's go ahead and start drawing some more stuff. Also, this fitting is not correct. This wants to be a, since we're doing a nice sharp angle here, I'm actually going to put a clean out at this end right here. So let's just change this to a combo Y, but it's not showing up, and that's because a combo Y is a T-type fitting. So we have to hit this little plus button, and now we have our sanitary T, but that's not an approved fitting. So we have to change that to that combo Y that we pasted into our project. Right click, draw pipe, and just extend it out to about here. And I accidentally had the slope value turned on. So that's another thing. You guys have to remember that when you're drawing sloped pipe, you're going to have to make sure that this slope value is correct. So in that case, I should have been sloping up. So I'm going to hit cancel. Let's try that again. So I select my fitting, right click, draw a pipe. And this time I want to make sure I'm sloping up. And we're just going to go over here. Now it worked. And we're going to set our elevation to 0 and hit apply. And that's going to be our clean out for our building. So everything's looking good now. We just have to make sure we keep an eye on that slope since we're drawing sloped piping. So the next thing we're going to do is draw these showers. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my shower drain right here, and it's a 2-inch shower drain. I'm just going to click my create pipe button, and we're going to make sure we have slope down selected up here, and everything looks good. The slope value is right. And the first thing we have to change is this elevation. So again, we're just going to go down to -2, and we can change this later if we need to. And I'm just going to zoom in, and we're going to go at 45 degrees. And we're going to go into this wall right here, which is going to be our vent that's going to circuit vent all of these shower drains. We're going to go to this point right here, and we're going to make a 90-degree turn to about right here. Now I'm going to zoom in on this. I'm going to make sure my slope is working. So I'm going to click on my piece of pipe, and you can see the slope is working at 1/8 of an inch. So that looks good. So the first thing I'm noticing is I need, since I have a 90-degree turn here, I need a long sweep type fitting. So I showed you guys how to download that, and you can get it at my website. So here's a long sweep right here. You can also download it from Revit. But since we have a 90-degree turn, we need to make sure that we add a clean out down here. And that will allow if there's ever a backup, we can clean this line out right here. And you might want to make sure, again, we need to make sure we're sloping up this time. So let's go right here, and let's go to 0, 0, and hit apply. And you also might want to make sure that the architect's okay with putting a clean out here. You can also locate it maybe right here. And the code says that we can have a 90-degree turn if we're within 40 feet. So we can just quickly measure that right here. And we are definitely within 40 feet. We're only 25 feet. So that's looking good. And this is going to be where my vent is. So I'm going to show you guys right here. I'm going to right click here, create similar. And this will be my vent piping. So I'm going to start it at maybe 9 feet. And we'll start at a point right here, and we're just going to drop that down into this piece right here. So that's our vent piping. And I know you guys hate when the architects miss the vent piping, so let's add that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to connect this drain right here into this piece of pipe, and we're going to slope into it. So the way we have to do things with sloped piping is you always have to start at your main first, okay? Because we can slope up a lot easier than trying to slope down and guessing, okay? So let's click on this piece of pipe. Let's right click, and we're going to create similar. And what create similar does is it basically creates the same type of pipe, and it creates the same size of pipe of this main, which is really good. So we're going to make sure we're sloping up, and we're at the right slope value. And what Revit will do is when you hover into the place where the drain is, it will snap. And you see that snap that happens right there, and the fixture highlights. So we're going to highlight right there, we're going to click, and we're doing stuff. So we can just drag it all the way into that, and let's just click a point right here. As you can see, something's wrong. I don't really know what's going on. It says something about required fittings. Who knows what that is. I'm gonna tell you what it is, and this actually kind of drove me crazy tonight, but you know what, I figured it out. And what it is you have to create similar, but what you have to do is you have to make sure you have inherent elevation, inherent size selected, okay? So we have to make sure slope up is also selected and our slope value. So these are the types of things you have to make sure is all correct. So again, let's highlight into our fixture. Let's go to about a point right here. And would you look at that? It actually drew our piping. And let's just make sure the slope is correct. And that does not look correct. So we can always change this now. So let's just make it 1/8 of an inch. And I'm actually not sure why that didn't work, but you know, we can always edit these things. So that changed our whole main. As you can see, it kind of moved it and that drain right there. So let's actually Control Z that, and let's just try that again. So again, with slope piping, what you want to do anytime you are deleting the piping, you want to delete it back to the fitting and then select your fitting, and you're going to want to hit this minus button. And what that will do is we'll get rid of the fitting, but it will keep your slope intact. You don't ever want to delete the fitting, because then the slopes of the pipe will be different and they're going to be a nightmare trying to reconnect them. Okay, so let's try this again. Let's click our pipe, right click, create similar. Make sure we're sloping up. We're going to inherit elevation, inherit size. We're going to click right here and go to right here. Hit escape, and let's just click our piece of pipe. And again, you can see that the slope is not correct. Now, we're not going to let that bog us down. We're just going to connect our drain here. And all I have to do is click into this and click right there. I kind of just dragged it. And Revit went ahead and created that piece of pipe. Now, what we could do is we could kind of lock this fitting in place. I could just pin it down real quick. So I'm going to select the fitting. I'm going to pin it down. And I'm just going to, you know, select this piece of pipe, and I'm going to try to change the slope right here. And as you can see, that did in fact work. Revit will let me do that. Now I just got to remember to select this fitting again, and we're going to unpin that guy. So that was a way to do it. It wasn't great, and for some reason it didn't work that time. It worked when I first tried this out for you guys, so who knows why it's not working. Now, something I'm sure a lot of you plumbing designers or plumbers out there will notice, that this is not the right fitting. So let's go ahead and change this to a combination T. And instead of having to change these every single time, let's go ahead and just change the routing preferences for our PVC type pipe. Edit type, routing preferences, and let's go ahead and make the junction T, instead of this T sanitary, let's make it this Y combination. And for our elbows, let's make them this bend long sweep. So that should be much better. Let's hit OK. And now we don't have to change the T's to the correct combination sanitary T. So let's try another method. Now, this is probably my favorite method to connect piping, because you can do it in a 3D view. So I'm going to just click on the plumbing fixture, and we're going to use this connect into button, and I'm just going to connect it right into here. And you're going to want to make sure you select a point that's a little further down so the T goes the right way. So let's select right there. And would you look at that? That is beautiful. That is a beautiful thing. So let's click this guy right here, and you can see there is no slope, so we can always change the slope now. Well, sorry. So let's click that, and we need to click this slope button. And let's just change that to 1/8 of an inch. And that worked perfectly. So that one looks great. Now for the last one, let's try what we did for this first drain and see if it works now that the fittings are correct. So let's go ahead and click on our piece of pipe, right click, create similar. Make sure we inherit the elevation, inherit the size. Make sure our sloping is sloping up, and it should snap. and let's just snap right into that drain right there and see what happens. Alright, that did not work. So I think we actually had the slope value on, so that's another thing. So if I click on this piece of pipe, create similar, that time we had, I believe we had change slope selected, so let's just do it this way. Make sure slope up. Alright, everything looks good. Click here, click this point, and that time everything worked out great. So that time we don't even have to change the slope since we already had that slope value set. But again, it's not really working, so it's not perfect, guys, and that's what I'm trying to get across to you. Oh, another thing, I can't, for some reason, I can't select this slope value, but what I can do is if I click this little slope button, once I do that, it will let me select the value. So I'm really not sure why it does that, but it does. So there you go, the slope is correct now, and that little run of piping took quite a long time, but as you can see, once we had the routing preferences set, and honestly guys, trying to get these pieces of pipe to the perfect slope is just not worth your time. It's not going to affect the model at all. Really, the ones that matter are this run right here and all the way to here, but the one that really matters is this main run right here. Okay, so we have all these showers connected, and please let me know, guys, if you know, you guys see any problems with this. I'm here to learn too. I've been doing this for a while, but I'm on the design side, so I don't get to build these all the time. Which reminds me that since I made this 2-inch piping, I'd actually have to slope this at 1/4 inch per foot. So I actually would want to probably change all of this piping right here to 3 inches so I don't have to worry about that slope. But if I was going to change it to 1/4 inch, it looked like it might have moved my piping a little bit right over here. But if I would have changed this to 1/4 of an inch, what would have happened is all this would have broke, so I would have need to start all over again and just redraw all of my pieces of pipe. So I'm not going to do all that, guys, but as you can imagine, you'd want to just delete the whole section and just reuse the connect into commands, and that's going to make your life a lot easier. A lot of times when you're drawing sloped piping, you're gonna want to try to fiddle with stuff, but I would always recommend just redrawing it. It's a lot cleaner, because once things start breaking, then you're going to be in trouble. Now I do want to show you a command that's very helpful. So there's this analyze, under the Analyze tab, click Show Disconnects and click on the pipe button. And what that will do is it will show where the piping has been disconnected. So especially with sloped piping, you're going to want to keep an eye on any disconnects. I do believe this slows Revit down a little bit, but not so much that you would have to worry about anything. So that's a good one to use when you're drawing sloped piping, because you're going to want to, you know, if you do Revit, use it as a calculation tool. You're going to want all the fixture units to go down this piece of piping so that you can calculate it at the end. When you're right here, you can count up all of your fixture units in your building. So let's continue. I'm going to actually turn off the disconnects for now, so I can just show you guys some things. Now I want to show you guys how this piping goes into this main right here. Now there's a couple of different ways that this happens. Now sometimes the contractor will actually pipe it from this main right here and go at the same elevation and just slope up and hit all these drains. But also I think that there are times where you would want to keep this elevation higher, and then when you go into this main, you're going to want to basically 45 into it and roll your piece of pipe. So I'm going to show you how to do that real quick. So this is probably the most ninja trick I have for this video. So I'm going to go to Manage. I'm going to go to MEP Settings, Mechanical Settings, and I'm going to go down to Pipe Settings, and we're going to click on Slopes. Now I've already added this, but you're going to want to add a new slope, and you're going to want to make it 12 inches over 12 inches and hit OK. Now I already have one, so it's right here. So you're just going to create that new slope, and what that will do is it will draw a pipe at 45-degree angle because it's 1 over 1 or 12 inches over 12 inches. So we're going to hit OK. And the cool thing about this is now what I can do is I can get into my main right here, and I can click on it. Then I just right click, Create Similar, and same thing as last time. I have to make sure I inherit the elevation, inherit the size, make sure our slope is up, and go 12 inches over 12 inches, and make sure the orientation or the routing gets locked like that. And we'll go up to a point about right here and click. And as you can see, Revit has drawn that fitting or that piece of pipe at 45-degree angle. So now I can basically tee into that thing. So you'll notice that we are not at the right elevation, so I'm going to have to change that. So let's go to our 3D view just like this, and we'll go ahead and just select all of our piping from this view like here, and we'll just bring it up and just use the arrow keys. So I'm just going to bring it up to a point where I can use the trim command, and that looks about right. So then let's escape out of there, and we'll just go back to that view right here, and then we can just use our trim command TR and trim that into this. And that's the way I believe that they might construct in the field if this piping needed to be a little higher. So that's one way to do it. So let's go ahead and try to do another way. So the second way I told you guys, the piping would actually be at the same elevation. So let's go ahead and do that. And for that, we're going to actually create a section. So let's go to view, and I'm going to go section view, go to this point to here, and let's right click, go to view, and I'm going to put that section at my 3D view right here, and we'll go to fine level of detail. That does not look like fine level of detail. Oh yeah, you got to click over here and do it. All right, so that looks good. And so all I need to do is basically bring all of my piping to this point right here. So we need to draw that first. So again, we're going to delete our pieces of pipe from this. So we're just going to delete that piece right there. And for this guy, again, we're going to select it and hit the minus button. And we're going to right click or click on this piece of pipe, right click, create similar. And this time we're going to inherit both the size and elevation, slope up. And this time we're just going to select 1/8 of an inch. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go out to a point about right there, and it should draw that piece of pipe right there. So now all we have to do is we have to align this view or this piece of pipe to that elevation. So let's do that. So let's go ahead and use our align command. So let's go to modify, align, click on where we want to go to, which is right here, and then click on this piece right here and see what happens. And would you look at that, Revit actually worked for once. And then we can go ahead and just delete this piece right here since we don't need it to be 4 inches. We'll click on this guy and we know it's at the right slope and everything, and we can just go right into that. Oh, it's not letting me do it. That's not good. So maybe we want to Control Z that, and we're going to trim these together. And then once we have those fittings, we can just reduce those down to 3 inches right here. So these are the little tricks that you guys are going to have to figure out as you're going. Like I said, sloped piping is probably one of the hardest things to do in Revit. So if you guys can master this, you can master anything. So that was 2 different ways to connect into your mains. One with the rolling 45-degree angle, and this one is just set to the same elevation. Now what I would also recommend is just to draw these pieces right here at 0 slope, so that way you don't have all these messy fittings and stuff messing up. So I'd make this 0 and then just align it to this piece right here, just like we did. Alright, so for our last bit, let's just connect this little bathroom, and I'm just gonna, take all the things we've been talking about in this session. So I'm gonna click my lavatory. I'm just gonna go a little quicker this time, guys. We're gonna create pipe right here. I'm gonna drop it down to maybe 18 inches, and we're gonna go into the wall here. We're gonna go back down to -2 feet, and we're gonna go out this way, something like that. Hit escape. And for this, I'm going to use my toilet right here, and I'm going to go into that piece. And maybe for this, we want to just use connect into, since that was pretty much the easiest way to do it. So let's just connect in. Let's make sure the slope was correct on this. So I think we might have been sloping up, so we were. See, our lower point is over here. So let's go ahead and change that. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this piping is not sloping up. So I believe we can actually change the direction of the slope. So the high points here to low points here. And I'm going to change the slope. Nope, I'm not going to do that. I think the easiest way is actually just delete this piece of pipe right here. And then we're going to click on our fitting. And we're going to right click here, draw pipe. And let's make sure we're sloping down this time. We'll hold our shift button and make sure that slopes down just like that. Hit escape. Make sure we click that and verify our slope is correct. So now you see the high point is on the right and the low point is on the left, so that looks good. So then let's just click on our water closet right here, and let's use our favorite command, connect into, and we're just going to connect it into this piece right here, and that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and upsize our pieces of pipe right here to, is that a 4-inch? I think it might be. So let's make that a 4-inch, and then this drain right here, we would use the same method. I actually think I'm gonna have to move that back, so I'm gonna have to notify the architect to maybe move that drain a little bit on their plans. So I'm just gonna use the connect into again, and we can do this from a 3D view right here, and that looks pretty decent. And we'd have to make sure all these pieces are 2 inches, and that looks good. And we don't need a 4-inch, but that's totally fine. So let's just go to our main right here. So let's just drag this guy down right there. And since this elevation is not the same as this, I think I'm going to use our method with bringing that piece of pipe down. So I'm going to use my section box, and we'll go to our section view real quick, and we will just draw a piece of pipe right here. So I'm going to right click, create similar. We're going to make sure we inherit the size and elevation and slope up this time, and draw it from this point to about right here. Hopefully that was enough space. And again, we have to align, so let's use the align button, align this to this, and we'll use our trim extend and trim those together. I think the moral of the story is to stay away from sloped piping for you know, your small or runs of pieces, like for these showers and maybe for these water closets and such. But you can definitely do a sloped line for your main run. That way you can have the correct invert elevation, and you know everything's correct. Also, just to note, we would need to change all of these elbows right here to P-traps, so let's go ahead and do that since I already loaded my MEP Guy P-trap. So let's make sure that is working, and we can go ahead and select all the elbows in the project. Maybe we probably don't want to do that, but I'm just going to go ahead and select all of these and show you guys how the MEP Guy P-traps work. And let's just change these to the MEP Guy P-trap, and that looks good. And this one came out wrong, so we'd have to delete this piece and use our trim command and trim it up to that piece right there. And wow, that is a nightmare. So this is the type of things you guys have to deal with sloped piping. But anyway, let's go back to our floor plan, and let's use the medium level of detail and see if those P-traps are looking okay. Let's change our scale to something like this, and you can see my little P-traps are working. I could go ahead and just hide the plumbing fixtures. Let's see, hide the category. And so yeah, my P-traps do work. So if you guys want to learn how to create that, I have a little video on my website, but also I did a video that I will link to. It'll be the next video for you guys to watch on how my best tips and tricks for working with P-traps, and I think that's a really cool video, and it probably works well with this one. So make sure to check that out next, and have a good weekend, guys. And let me know in the comments if you have any ideas for future videos. See you later.